its original title was Musical Misogyny and Those Elite Jazz Bastards. Now, the reason I was called that, because it explored, as you could see, misogyny in the music industry, which I think is a major thing. It also looked at the American music scene and how racism, especially the effect of slavery on African American culture, how that created the American music scene as we know it, and how that differs from the British music scene, especially those elites who run the British jazz scene. Now, these are famous musicians who I have been under attack from recently, and the reason is for defending my friend Wendy Kirkland, who is a pianist that sometimes appears on my channel. And she was under fire for basically saying a number of different things. It will be explained throughout this video. Now, when this video originally went up, YouTube said it violated certain restrictions, and they removed it. In all the 1,500 videos I've ever put up, this has never happened. Now, with this edit you're about to see now, I'm going to try and sidestep that, right? And I think I know what's happened. And if it's what I think it's happened, it is really, really suspicious. So, this is a really unique YouTube video. This has got some juicy stuff on it, and I'm going to be naming names. But for it to get up, I think those people have got to not realise that this video is about them, because I think it's them that have reported it. I don't think it's YouTube. Now, when we get to the offending part of the video, I will jump back in and explain the context of what's going on. So, this video is wide-ranging. It covers a whole bunch of topics. Most of it is not about the personal attack and the specific things on me. Most of this video is simply about misogyny and racism in the music industry. So, I hope there's some interesting information, but sit tight, because sometimes things aren't what they seem. I was just about to launch into the beginning of this video, and as I was about to open my mouth, my stomach moaned. It complained. You may have heard it. And it put me off, really. Almost like quite an ignorant, entity butting in over the conversation I was about to have and putting me off. The visceral voice of my guts, complaining about something far simpler than what I'm about to complain about now. What am I going to complain about on this video? Well, it's a subject that I'm surprised that I have the desire to tackle, and it is musical misogyny. Yes, why would I want to talk about this? Me, Andy Edwards, the politically incorrect middle-aged white bloke, probably sexist to the core. But it's not quite like that, is it? The truth is never like that, is it? Because I do have two daughters, you see. And as they approach adulthood now, I look at the world in which they have to launch themselves into, and it seems a pretty rotten place. I have to be honest.
How old are you? 25. 25. I'm only 15.
Okay, good.
That's not good.
I want your husband.
No, sorry.
What's up?
You don't do this in this country. It's you go to jail.
Would their chances be better if they were blokes? I feel like it would. Am I being protective to them in a way that I wouldn't to a son? Maybe I am. I don't know. But the bottom line is, it troubles me. What troubles me? Well, after how many years of feminism, where have women got themselves? And what's this got to do with music, Remember, Andy, you had a politics channel. You had to take that away from the music, because here people come for the music. But I promise you, this is going to be a rich discussion on popular music and rock and roll, it's going to be a rich discussion, because as soon as I was thinking about musical misogyny this morning, it almost became a thing in itself. It was almost a thing of celebration, really, in that rock and roll in its essence is a celebration of testosterone, isn't it? But it's a strange celebration of testosterone. It's a sort of Nietzschean Superman version of testosterone. The idea of the warrior at the head of his army has been replaced by some sort of wishy-washy postmodern man, a cross between, I don't know, Jesus Christ and perhaps some sort of libertine. And with that is an array of misogynistic and sexist songs. Now, I know this because I have prepared so many sexist rock and roll songs, which, when put under the microscope and given the Edwards treatment, you know, where I sort of analyse these lyrics as though it was a great work of art, it suddenly exposes itself for what it is. She's a man, oh, he's a woman, she's a... That's the chorus. I think it what is he calling it? I think it really came from far away. Misogyny and rock and roll seem to hold hands and they hold hands in hands. It's what's this phrase? They hold hands with each other. That's what they do. Well, maybe your music's like that. Maybe it's just a general expression of the sexism that exists in our society. But when you take classical music, I mean, classical music is the great fascistic totalitarian music form, isn't it? With the composer dictator, you know, at the centre of it, and then the conductor, sort of Stasi police, you know, telling everyone how to play. You know, you wouldn't expect in there women to be able to get a greater hold on it than they do in the spheres of popular music and rock and roll. But they do, don't they? All those incredible female opera singers, yes, they all exist, but we have our great songstresses in popular music and rock and roll, don't we? Albeit a lot less in rock and roll. We're going to deal with all this on this chart. This is going to go all over the place, right? But in terms of virtuosos, some of the greatest virtuosos of the 20th century in the classical world are female. And when you mention their names, you don't feel, oh yes, I'm saying this to create, you know, for some service of women. It is just a statement of fact that these are the greatest virtuosos. And these great virtuosos that exist in the classical realm seem to have all the fire and fight and testosterone of the great musicians, you know, that we associate with virtuosity and skill in the realms of rock music. Now, my ideas, I think, for this video have been formed in a new idea where I have produced a week's worth of videos here after having a week off, which actually relate all to each other. The centerpiece of this week's video will be, I hope, or I dread, the video I did on Joni Mitchell, where I attempted to explore an aspect of the feminine in music rather than the masculine, something I hadn't done at such a level. And if you haven't seen that video, the reaction I had to approaching music with that mindset was it's something I didn't expect. I feel that Joni Mitchell and Kate Bush are artists who are able to axis of feminine energy, which is as powerful, dark and terrifying as any masculine energy, in fact even darker, and relates directly to their idea, or our idea perhaps, to be more accurate, of womanhood. I made the point that Joni Mitchell's career is entirely based upon the rootlessness that she felt of not being a mother when she was a mother. And if you want to know all about that, you need to go and watch that Joni Mitchell video. Kate Bush seems to emerge as a sort of like a woman based in legend or folklore, a sort of English rose stroke Viking maiden who accesses parts of her femininity, her sexuality, which is actually quite frightening in a way. But of course, we know that Kate Bush did the great Greta Garbo and sort of has disappeared into obscurity, releasing an album every 10 years. Although when she does, they're usually like buses and two arrive at the same time, but that's by the by. The point is that I think that retreat into motherhood took away a mindset which goes out there like the male warrior with their eye on the horizon, looking for the wildebeest to take down with its bravery and skill. For I have always felt that rock and roll really taps into the idea of the male warrior. It's part of rock and roll shtick. Pop music doesn't do it so much. Right, pop music can work in a realm which is best described as the sort of Star is Born dynamic. How many times will the establishment media make a version of A Star is Born? The pop songstress under the Svengali character. This incredible talent, but this talent is like bird-like and fragile. And then you have the male Svengali over the top, but he is full of like demons and chaos, right? And the star either is destroyed by the Svengali's descent into the black realm of chaos, or they rise above it. This has also been played out in films like My Fair Lady and The Red Shoes, the Paolo Pressburger film. Classical music often is about music, and the intents of the people who make it are to create music. So these things are put on hold. But popular music doesn't work like that. Remember, popular music grows out of the Hollywood studio system. And the Hollywood studio system begins right back in the early part of the 20th century with the vamp, Theda Bara, the first female film star who could wither a man with just the magnetic and terrifying effect of their black eyes lit up big on the screen. And then into that space we get all sorts of sexually provocative girl women, whether it be Clara Bow or Jean Harlow, eventually evolving into the likes of Marilyn Monroe. And Marilyn Monroe's great legacy is through artists like Blondie and Madonna, and now virtually every pop starlet. It's about this idea of the child woman, right? Somewhere in there, we also have the idea of the sort of Bessie Smith-esque, loud, sexually aggressive but obtuse, vaguely lesbian, sort of impressive, big-voiced diva, demanding, and this comes out of the mythos of Bessie Smith rolling her sleeves up, to take a great big fist to racists that had turned up, to spoil their show, chasing them off. Able to knock a bloke out with one blow. I'm aware, as I utilise my usual method for YouTubing, where I start with the subject and now I'm improvising. I feel completely out of control as I bring an aesthetic male gaze, I suppose, onto this female energy that exists in music. I'm sure that my male gaze is full of all sorts of misogynistic undertones. I'm sure it is. But I'm sure they're there as well. That's the point. But rock and roll's different. Rock and roll's definitely different. We don't have, with rock and roll, the great female queen. We have Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley being the sort of Hollywood version of a black rhythm and blues or country and western star. He is perfection personified in a way. And the tortuous route from a Howlin' Wolf to a Bob Dylan and then to a Jim Morrison is a strange route. Now, in my exploration of the feminine, I also did a video this week which was looking at punchable rock stars. And number one on the list was Jim Morrison. And on that video I said I'd deal with that elsewhere. But let's deal with Jim Morrison right now. The Lizard King. The Doors, it's about as early as we get for rock bands. Right? I cannot think of anybody that is as fully formed as a frontman as Jim Morrison. Mick Jagger perhaps, but of course Mick Jagger is basically a British version of the minstrel show, isn't he? Who else do we have at that time? Maybe Roger Daltrey, but 65, 66, not fully formed at all. Moving to that sort of golden god that we're going to see with Robert Plant. The Beatles, charismatic, Liverpudlian lads, But there's no sort of Nietzschean Zoroastras in any of these groups. But when Jim Morrison comes forth, taking his lead from the Beats, the Kerouacs and those types of characters, he appears much more like a Christ-like figure. The famous photograph as he has his arms outstretched with no shirt on, staring into the camera with his long dark locks and his sort of truculent good looks, right? He's almost Christ-like. When I was young, I was very impressed with Jim Morrison's persona. Okay? And that voice, that deep voice, that became the voice not of rock and roll, but of alternative rock. Here I stand, that then pops up with Iggy Pop, pops up with Wayne Hussey for the bloody Sisters of Mercy, David Sylvian, David Bowie. They're all trying to be Jim Morrison. All trying to be him. And why? Oh, because he's so edgy. What does he do that's so edgy? Well, apparently, he did a gig where he started gyrating around suggestively, and then he got his little thumb, right, and he threaded it through his trousers and popped it out so it looked like his little willy, and he flashed the audience. Now, I feel, as time has gone on, the genius of the Doors resides in the band. They are an incredible band with a brilliant frontman. And Jim Morrison's sort of magnetic stage presence, the glistening black trousers, the white baggy shirt, it's just iconic. Was enough of a front for Robbie Krieger, John Densmore, and Ray Manzarek to weave absolute genius behind sort of modal post bossa nova psychedelic rock music, which really was a product of where it was situated, multicultural in nature, no sort of distorted electric guitars, but a sort of almost like Ornette Coleman, John Coltrane-esque modality. It's so close to a lot of what's happening in free jazz at the time, but also so close to what's happening in mainstream jazz. The sort of Stan Getz Jazz Samba album, which sold millions of copies in the early 60s, also seems to influenced the sound of the Doors. So I love the Doors. I think they're a very important band. But as I get older, Jim Morrison does seem like a bit of a truculent teen, doesn't he? A little bit of a show-off. Someone who is trading on his, I don't know, beat poet, I'm the cool guy in the school type of thing, to bed various women and see himself as something more than he is.
Old man Joe, he's as bad as a monkey. He's very, very funky, funky. Old man Joe, he's out of sight. He never rolled. That man is always right. Said, old man Joe, what you do to me? I'm shivering and a queen like a leaf on a tree. Yeah. Old man Joe, can you play some monkey tie? Yeah. Old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me? I said, old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me? I said, old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me? I said, old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me? I said, old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me? I said, old man Joe, would you stay with me? I said, old man Joe, would you come with me?
And of course, his death at 27 in the bath, from obviously too much living, shall we say, too much drink and drugs and all sorts of things. He actually had died of a heart attack. Then put him into the same bracket as a Janis Joplin or Jimi Hendrix. And Jim Morrison's interesting to compare against those two, because Jimi Hendrix, the quiet and shy Black Elvis as he was described, also was incredibly sexually potent, wasn't he? We all know what happened when he met Cynthia Plasticaster, right? He didn't fail to create a little sculpture for her. And was that sculpture that little? That's the point, right? So we see that it's almost essential that testosterone-fueled rock star is a part of rock and roll. Now, this comes from the blues, of course, And you only have to go back to the blues to find loads and loads of songs sung by blokes which is basically boasting about how women will not tell them what to do, about their sexual prowess and all this. This goes right back in the history of blues. And this is backed up by, in the 1920s and 30s, the dirty blues, where women would really sing in a way that I don't think the world had ever heard before, in that sort of, wrapped up in that way before.
I got I'm also putting diggers in my son. I got more than that, looking more get on these my small daddy. Baby won't I move your shoes.
And all of this feeds in, but we also have within the blues that sort of Billie Holiday, my man don't love me, treats me all so mean, and I love him and I can't let him go, but he does all these terrible things to me. So all of this, which really is just a popular description of the things that most average young people are bound up within. This becomes the staple of pop music and the sort of sexually potent, dangerous blues persona is brought together with this almost like Christ-like, come to save the world, Aquarian character that we have. By the time we get to the 70s, this is absolutely apparent. Robert Plant comes in, stripped to the waist, great big bulge in his trousers, a plume of blonde hair, backlit with a yellow light to make it look like a halo. And what's his message to the world? Once he opens his arms in that Jim Morrison way, Christ-like to the world, what's his message? Push it, baby, baby. If that's what squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down its leg. My leg, sorry, not its leg. The leg, it's not the leg of the lemon. Lemons don't have legs. Dan Roberts' leg. Ian Gillan, is quickly drafted into Deep Purple by Richie Blackmore because he's a handsome man. He's actually appeared in Jesus Christ Superstar because he looks like Jesus, but he's not Jesus because Ian Gillan loves the ladies, right? He loves the ladies even more than Robert Plant. Every single lyric is about his conquest in some shape or form. And so this idea is birthed into rock. Now, feminism, it seems to me, starting with those very posh middle-class ladies throwing themselves under horses at the turn of the 20th century and refusing to eat stuff because they wanted to get the vote. And it's shocking that in my country women didn't have the vote until 1922. It's a shocking thing, right, that women's place was seen like that. Think how fast women came on in the 20th century. But of course, the suffragettes were asking to be treated the same. They just wanted the same rights. We want to be able to vote, buy houses, have property, work. We want to be able to do everything that men should do. Right? Equal rights, equal pay. That's where it starts. But of course, the Aquarian sort of 1960s utopia, the idea of the Woodstock that's where the world's going to be perfect, is the throwing off of all these shackles of Western sort of the prison of Western ideology, Western liberalism. We don't need that anymore. We don't want to fall into the same trap as the Nazis or even Stalin and the communists. No, you don't need to do that. All you need to do is just get out into the countryside and form a commune. Look at all these kibbutz. That's what we want. We want a world where everybody just throws off the vestiges of Western, capitalism, and they all live together. They all help each other. That is the section which violated supposedly YouTube standards. Now, it violated it for nudity. Now, obviously, I've changed the image that was there, but if you want to know what the image was, it was a picture of two hippies fully clothed holding hands in a sunset setting. That was it. Now, that supposedly violated the nudity standards of YouTube. Now, obviously, I don't think any AI or anything in YouTube spotted that. It's really odd. Now, this is interesting because as we get to the end of this video, I'm going to be explaining in detail. So I won't explain it here, but there has been a confrontation between myself and Wendy Kirkland and people who are quite famous musicians within the British jazz fraternity. And I think it's gone beyond just the mere discussion or argument about things surrounding jazz. I think it got to a point where it got very toxic, and not from my side or Wendy's side. I think they went too far. Now, whilst I was arguing on this, I decided to put up a video documentary that I made on my channel that's been up there for about 2 or 3 years, has never had any violations against it because there's no swearing, there's no violence, there is nothing in it, there's no nudity, there's nothing. And you could go and watch that. It's on my YouTube. It's called The Genesis of Jazz, and it just looks at the history of early jazz. Now, for some reason, when I posted that up on Facebook, Facebook came and said, this has violated Facebook standards, first time it's ever happened to me, on the grounds of nudity. There is no nudity in that video. I've just pushed this up, attacking the same people with a title where they could have worked out what that video was, and suddenly this is also violating nudity standards. This is a lie. So if this video goes up and stays up, the reason is because they didn't see it straight away. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to wait, and I'm not going to put this up until the day of its release. It's not going to be no premiere. They're not going to be able to spot it or anything like that. So if you're watching this, that means it passed. It's exactly the same video. Now, I don't know if that picture of the hippies was flagged, so I've removed that. I put a pussycat quoting John Lennon, right? If this now passes up with not a problem, then there was no problem. So it begs the question, why did the AI in YouTube flag it? I don't believe it did. I believe it was reported. And it's a malicious reporting. and it has nothing to do with the content of this video. It's a direct attack on free speech, and it's a malicious attack, because obviously I'm playing with fire here, because if I get a YouTube strike, so if this video goes up and it is flagged again, it will be classed as a second strike, and I will lose a week's worth of videos, which is like losing a week's worth of money, right, over videos. That the only way I can challenge this is by, challenging it. I need a lawyer to do this stuff. It's too hard to take on a company like YouTube. So there is something really, really underhand. I'm pointing at the elites, right? I'm calling the elites out. And they are coming back in a way that is far more malicious than I thought. I'm telling you the truth. I have got no reason to lie on this. And so this video is testament to that. So keep on watching to the end. And I will post the video for free. The original video will go up for free on my Patreon. So if you want to jump over there and become a free member, right, you can become a free member, then knock it on the head. I'm not trying to get any money out of you, but it will allow you to see the original, which was flagged for nudity. This is absolutely ridiculous, and it's worrying me so much, because YouTube should be a place where people can have intelligent conversations, not swear. Now there's a whole bunch of swearing in this video that I put in for a reason. I'm now going to edit that out as well. So when I get to that bit, the whole thing will just go silent. But the odd thing is, nobody reported it for bad language. Right? It's just odd. I really hope it is not the case that certain people in certain positions where they can just get in touch with YouTube and say, take that guy down because he's violated a standard, and they just do it without actually looking what the facts are. Because if that's the case, the elites can censor us plebs at the bottom of the thing. And this is really where I've been trying to poke the finger already. Our arts are controlled, and you have to line up with what they say, and if you don't, they start to go for you like this, not by arguing with you or saying you're wrong, but by trying to wipe you off the face of the earth so you cannot speak. This is totalitarian and absolutely awful, and I don't care. In the end, I know which side I want to be on. I want to be on the side that's right, that argues and tries to point out misogyny, tries to point out actual racism in the music industry, which I've attempted to do, and show that just because you are black does not mean you're not part of an elite. I think that's really what's important here. The racism in America is real, but the elites are the elites, and it goes beyond race. Anyway, you can carry on watching the rest of it now, and thanks for listening. And really, the nuclear family, the ultimate product of industrial revolution. Remember in some sort of Rousseauian previous age where children were brought up communally in the little village, everybody was a mother and father. But no, to make horrible industrialized capitalism work, it meant the creation of the nuclear family, and we all became just a little unit with no care of the people who live next door to us or work next to us. It was just, the mom and dad and the 2.4 kids. We want to destroy that. We want to break that up. We want to have some sort of communal way of bringing up children. And this wave of feminism emerges. Now, the only problem with this is that for this to work, the women have to put out free love. Free love becomes the thing, doesn't it? Now, the idea of free love has been baked into progressive liberalism now, and those ideals have appeared on the internet. They've driven themselves into pornography, which now is at a level that humans could never have ever envisaged. And it drives itself into the dating apps and the sort of, I wouldn't say free love world that now exists, but the free market of sex that now exists. Now, it's worth remembering why human beings invented the marriage contract and why they invented all of the stuff that goes with that. Was it for love? No, it wasn't. It was a contract. It was a contract to guarantee that you as a normal bloke with a normal job would not have your wife taken away with your local desk. And this made normal procreation a difficult thing. That had to be negotiated. But the idea of free love and the Woodstock ideal that sort of emerges then has atrophied it into a culture that exists now, which I think is actually pretty misogynistic. Another idea that's emerged into our culture is the sort of identitarian dogmatic idea of a hierarchy of identities based upon power. What did Foucault say? There's no such thing as truth, only power. Once you believe that the world is socially constructed, it allows you, right, to see race where there is no race, because of course we are all one race. And that idea that also existed within the sort of civil rights movements and the Woodstock generation also starts to atrophy in the 1970s. And we now have this idea of a hierarchy of identity, right? And you could almost get points for, you know, how many identity groups you're in, because certain identity groups, obviously white and Jews, and we know we're at the top in this hierarchy of identity. With all the privilege, we control the meta-narratives. It doesn't matter if you are a down and out white person sat on the side of the street begging for someone to just drop you a little bit of money so you can go buy whatever your drug of choice is to blot yourself out of the horror that you find yourself in. Right, but even those people have this inherent privilege within them, and this inherent privilege trumps all other privileges. And sorry, ladies, on that hierarchy of privilege, you are quite low down. Right, us middle-aged white blokes who are at the top of it. Sorry, ladies, if you're white, then you're going to be pretty close with me. And so when it comes up to you stating your claim on the world, your desire to have an equal bite of the cherry, which I support everybody in the whole world with completely, you're going to find yourself being put to the back of the queue. When it comes to the idea that if you're not part of the problem, then if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, then you will be kicked up into the place where I reside, where actually you're part of the problem, and that's it. Unless you doff your cap and turn down and say, I am so sorry, I am so sorry. Now, this is so anti-rock and roll. It's so anti the Nietzschean superhero, the Christ-like Jim Morrison person bursting out like that naked bloke with his balls out that William Bake painted. You know, the chap? You know, that idea that we should stand up all free and go, this is me, warts and all, accept me or get lost. No, that's only the territory of those who happen to exist in the bottom of this imagined essentialist hierarchy that has now become a dogmatic idea welded into our establishments, welded into the politics, welded into the education, and welded into the media. And this affects music greatly, because music has always been elitist and the realm of the privileged. Imagine a sort of Maslowian view of the world, you know, where we have a hierarchy of needs. And if I wake up, you know, naked and hungry, I don't care about making music. All I want to do is make sure I've got my loincloth nailed and maybe something to eat. And I'll eat anything if I'm hungry. I might be a bit of grass and maybe, you know, an unfortunate squirrel that was didn't get out of the car fast enough. You know, there I am eating raw squirrel meat and bloody grass. Once my belly's full, then I can turn my attention to all sorts of things. Maybe shelter. I can find somewhere to, you know, put me in to get out the rain, you know, get some better clothes, you know, get some heat, get some warmth. Then maybe get some friends around so I can have a chat at night, and then, you know, the best sort of friend, you know, a lady friend. And I can, you know, I can try and create my little nuclear family, although, of course, the identitarian left are going to come along and say, no, you should be sat in a bloody commune. We'll look after you. Will you really? Yeah, but you're going to have to kowtow to our ideas. What happens if I don't? Nah, it's a bad thing for you, I'm afraid. What do you mean? Well, we just can't have you lot around because our idea of utopia has to be enacted. It's really important. We're really definitely positive that our utopia is the best utopia. So I'm afraid you either get on your place in your bloody, matching overalls with everyone else, eating your soup along with everybody else, looking after the sort of communal kids that are running around. Oh, I'm afraid, it's up against the wall, mate, So, you can see I have a disdain for all this. But here I am, considering the work of Kate Bush and Joni Mitchell, two artists that I haven't considered. Why haven't I considered? Because they're women. Because I don't know how to approach them. Because those artists in themselves seem to occupy a place in the world which I can't quite compartmentalise, so they don't come up with it. You get talking about bebop jazz musicians or jazz rock musicians or prog musicians. Kate Bush might be a prog musician, I don't know. Joni Mitchell might be a jazz fusion musician, I don't know. But they're all more than that, right? And I feel the want to try and explain how much I love what they do. So I set about doing it this week. I set about doing it. And it was an interesting thing. And my talk on Kate Bush contributed to what happened as much as my talk on Joni Mitchell. But when I got to Joni Mitchell, and once I felt her humanity, not her bloody Jim Morrison Nietzschean aspect, that her full of love, full of hate, full of flaws, full of a unique view of the world, which is at once metaphysical and absolutely rooted in reality. And in considering her words and her view and the sheer genius of explaining the reality of the situation, it broke me. And after 1,500 videos here on the internet, she broke me. Frank Zappa never did that. John McLaughlin never did that. Miles Davis never did that. John Coltrane never did that. Never did that. Not on this channel. Who broke me? Who was able to break past this front? Who was able to break past all the sort of the gusto, all the sort of showy monologues, the thesaurus full of bloody nonsense words strung together on the spot to try and explain something to you. You know, all the gestures, all the comedy, all the seriousness, all the stuff I've done on this channel, right? All the videos that are properly edited with all sorts of things going on, and all the ones like this where it's just a bloke talking to you with no props whatsoever, right? Well, within all that, something happened this week. It's strange. There was a build-up to it, and I'm living in the bloody. I don't know whether I've done the right thing or not. Sometimes I go and think, shall I delete that video? I don't know what I'm doing. Bloody hell! Something powerful with Joni Mitchell. Something powerful. I hope she sees it, but I dread her seeing it. But the idea that she saw it. Because maybe she sits there thinking, I wonder why everyone thinks I'm so great. They think you're great, Joni, because you have the power to do that. Right? You have the power to kill me softly. All right? That's what you have the power to do. It's incredible power. And it makes me feel at one with the world, but also humbled. I can't put it into words. I can't, and I'm still feeling it today. I wasn't going to do a video today. I was done. I plan to do on the Monday my punchable musicians, right? Build up to Jim Morrison, bring in that sort of male idea, which is in a way a little bit meh. Talk about three musicians, one Phil Collins who doesn't have that sort of Jim Morrison Nietzschean aspect to him, one that is Freddie Mercury who does, but has it even though all his little man sort of the little everyman aspect to him is also incredibly portrayed, like a front man we've never seen. And then Kate and Joni really exploring this feminine energy. And I didn't plan on doing this. The reason I'm doing this is because something's happened over the last few days. I didn't want it to happen because I was trying to get straight here with the YouTube channel, take a week off, think about it, and return with something that I felt had some worth to it for people, right? That there could be the comedy of the 10 most punchable musicians, but by the same token, you know, people who are sensitive and interested in music and interested in the music I love might get a conversation here which they haven't heard before. I might be able to stray into an area that makes them feel better about themselves. I have dealt with misogyny on this channel before. Many years ago, I interviewed a jazz keyboardist called Wendy Kirkland. Her channel is in the description here. And she's an incredible musician, full-on jazz player. Her husband, Pat, is an incredible multi-instrumentalist, but a virtuoso jazz guitarist and jazz bass player. Wendy can play jazz in every shape or form. And once I'd interviewed her about her struggles within the British jazz scene and the misogyny that she has got in trying to be a female jazz musician. Oh, you're a female jazz keyboardist. Oh, do you sing? Well, she does sing. She does sing. And she's a brilliant singer. But female jazz pianists often have to sing. It's one of those things. I've been very chuffed to bring her in and put her in heavyweight jazz situations here and make her fly and make her dig deep and go into all those areas that we love. Because I know Wendy can do it. She's a monster. She's one of the UK's great jazz pianists. But I've had long conversations about the sort of misogyny that she has to put up with. And this is someone that before they became a musician had to put up with bullying at school. My wife contended with terrible bullying at school. This is a feature. Men do get bullied, but when women get bullied, it's a strange affront against their femininity that happens. It's a dirty trick. It's almost like textbook misogyny, and it comes from both men and women. A certain type of bullying which is uncomfortable. And Wendy, I see it happening to her. And because she exists on that hierarchy, if she says anything about it, it's like, yeah, but no, but Wendy, there are a whole bunch of other people that we need to be looking after more. And when you get told that, and I've heard it, and so many other musicians that hear it, and when they hear it, regarding the UK jazz scene, they go, no, these people you're talking about are part of the elite. And they talk down to people and they patronise people. And anybody that does not kowtow to their view of the world will be destroyed. So what happens when you're a female musician on the UK jazz scene? And this scene is toxic. I've dealt with it before, but it's so unbelievably toxic. I used to wonder why every musician in the UK that was a jazz musician that I played with was American. I never could work out why it was, because the American jazz musicians are different, right? Now, there's a hill that I wonder whether I want to die on. And it's the hill of the racial colour of jazz. What is jazz's race? Well, I would say it hasn't got a race. It's a music form. Can't have a race. There's never been a music form that has a race. Classical music's not white. Chinese music is not yellow. Indian music is not brown, and a lighter brown perhaps than black music. There is no such thing as a racial colour when it comes to music. It just isn't a thing. And I can't understand how you can say there is without being a racist. But I'm very aware that in my sort of middle-class white liberal world, I probably sit in a comfortable place where I can say such a thing. I haven't experienced the racism that goes on in America. I haven't. I haven't experienced it. I haven't experienced it. And in doing this channel, I've spoken to black Americans. Now, black Americans are unique, right? Because they are in They live in the greatest country in the world, the one that has a constitution that puts bloody happiness as part of the bloody, Soviet Russia never said, what's our country about? It's about you being happy. You're going to pursue happiness. We're going to back you up with that. Every man's equal. You all got equal rights to the American dream. Black people had to live in a country that said that, but not only stuck them down at the bottom of the path of racism, but enslaved them, took away their names, took away everything about them, right? That were dumped like slave labour, not like slave, actual slave labour in a factory producing cotton or whatever it is, where the overseer felt that it was his right to be able to go and rape the women in those slave holdings. They would whip the men to death if they didn't do what they said. They acted like little Hitlers, totalitarian bastards for centuries. And when black people were eventually freed, they were shown a glimpse of what it could be like in the southern counties, southern states of America. But pretty soon, this bizarre, equal but bloody separate idea, the Jim Crow idea, emerged. Separate but equal, a disgusting idea. Separate but equal. The separatists came in on both sides. And by the 1960s, when this great sort of utopian Aquarian thing was going on, you also had the KKK up against the Black Panthers. And for me, both of those were racist bastards. They both were, I'm afraid. To me. Right? But do I understand what it's like to be a black person in America? No, I don't. Do I have an empathy for said black people turning around going, we've tried our hardest with these white people, but in the end, it might just be better for us to separate and go our own way and have our own thing and have our own music forms. And for them to look at their culture and say that our culture in America is separate, right, to the overall culture. There is something very distinct in American culture. It's a black American culture.
I think are the best of people that were slaves. You know what I mean? And that's how they, because they stole the cream of the crop from Africa and brought them over here. And God, as they say, works in mysterious ways. So he made everybody, because we was arguing over in Africa about the Watusi and the Buhara and the Umo and the Zawonga, we talk in different languages. So he brought us all over here, the best, the kings, the queens, the princesses, and the princes, you know what I mean? Shit, and put us all together, called one tribe.
Now, you all know, possibly, that I have argued against this. I've done it here. Don't like the idea of a music form being, racially demarked. Don't like that idea. Did black people create jazz? Well, in my opinion, and it won't change until I come up against some actual facts that prove it different. No, jazz was created in New Orleans in a melting pot. If it's got a race, it's mixed race. All sorts of different races, ethnicities, cultures created jazz. And this is as obvious as the nose on your face. Now, you may run to disagree and you may say, Google, did white people help invent jazz? And Google will say no, until you mention a few facts. What the hell was Papa Jack Lane? What were the T.O. family doing? What were all these people doing right at the beginning of jazz? Were they helping create jazz? Well, yes, they were. So who created jazz? And AI changes its bloody tune. Google suddenly changed its tune. And once you give it the facts, once you tell it to look at the facts, it says what is the facts. That there is a multicultural origination with jazz. Now, I talk to the people, right, that push against me, and some of them are reasonable and some of them are not. One guy is absolutely reasonable. It's Truth Saviour, who I have had very heated debates with. He has made the point that there is a thing called black American culture, and I agree with him entirely. Jazz which is a much bigger music form, which spread around the world like bloody wildfire. It was in the United Kingdom and France by 2 years after the release of the first jazz record. 1917, original Dixieland Jazz Band, I know it's a white band, but it is true jazz, is released. And by 2 years later, it's around the whole world. It's insane how quickly jazz grows. And all the people in all the other countries, they all develop jazz as well. And jazz is a bigger thing than that. And I think I feel that very strongly. I'm currently listening to Eberhard Weber at the moment, and I put it on and I think, how much of this is got, how much black American culture is in this jazz? But black American culture, if you think of that melting pot, it's not really a melting pot, is it? It's actually a cauldron of kindling, and the light that strikes that creates jazz, the thing which has got nothing to do with chords or scales or arrangement or any of that, the light that is struck within jazz is from black American culture. I don't believe jazz is a black music form. I believe it's a music form that comes out of black American culture. The blues, for example, is a music form that comes out of black American culture, but also in a way stays within black American culture for a long time, developing within itself until it's picked up by, British guitarists, British middle-class guitarists in the 1960s and turned into heavy rock. So why am I going on about all this? Well, because the likes of Truth Saviour, although we have differences of opinion, I respect his opinion and I can talk to him, and I will be, and part of this interview is to set up the fact that there will be another Truth Saviour interview, and it will not this time be combative. And I wanted to state that here, right, for those of you who are now following this, because if this channel is going to create a video every day at 6 p.m. UK time, it needs to actually join up. You know what inspired me about this? The Sopranos. Been watching The Sopranos, and I thought, why is this such a groundbreaking series? Because rather than having one-off episodes, it was a series, but it's a series where you could watch every one on its own. I'm also a massive Breaking Bad fan, and they take that idea and push it further out. And I want my channel to be like that, but within week chapters, they're like the series, okay? And so you watching this here, following this conversation, be aware that I'm going to sit down with True Saviour, and I think this time now we've been able to establish some sort of common ground, are going to be able to make a distinction about black American culture, about white British culture, and maybe even black British culture, which might explain the toxicity that exists in the black British cultural jazz scene.
Xenophobic, guys. It's just straight, we're just doing xenophobia debates. Like, it's so weird to me. The reason why it's xenophobic is because there is no such thing as just black.
She has no idea. If she does, she clearly is not acknowledging it. See, at one time in history, black Americans were the only people calling themselves black. Everybody from the diaspora was shying away from that word. They were either Jamaican, Nigerian, or whatever.
So we now go back to Wendy, feeling what she believes phenomenologically from her lived experience to be misogyny within that music scene, to coming to me and say, can I talk about that on your channel? And we did. How successfully, I don't know, because sometimes these conversations, they take a while to really root out what is going on. And I'm talking for Wendy, and I think it could be also to balance the interview that I'm having with Truth Saviour. Wendy's got no idea about this, but it might be an idea to go back to her for a discussion about this. She has turned away, I think, against the tenets of feminism because they're not working, right? And I find that interesting. They're not working. The tenets of feminism are no longer working for women. The idea that they exist to make women's lives better and to argue the rights of women has fallen apart. And there are certain aspects of women's rights, if you were to stand up to them, you will get called a bigot. Now, when you get called a bigot or a racist or whatever it is, you know it's because someone's trying to shut you down. It's not, they don't want to engage in the actual conversation. Here on the British jazz scene, my friend Martin Speake, and this has all been covered here, was cancelled. And that means every aspect of his life was cancelled. Not just his teaching position, his job, but also all his gigs, all his recording sessions. Now he's been able to climb out of that pit. And I hope I helped him a little bit by, you know, him having a place here to come and show you what a genius musician he is. But what was his crime? His crime was to say, I don't think that racial discrimination in the British jazz scene is really something we need to worry about as much as other things like the prejudice and lack of inclusivity for poor people, less educated people, and women, right? Especially white women. Because in this game, and this jazz elite can't take it, the fact that they're white might be working against them. What are you saying? What are you saying, Andy? What are you saying? I'm not part of the UK jazz scene. I don't know. The only reason I know this is because people contact me all the time and tell me. And why do they tell me in private? Because they're scared that this bastard elite will come along and have a go at them. I'm afraid this bastard elite with their black identity politics, right? There is like a snake pit of them. And Wendy fell right into them. And there has been a discussion going on Facebook. And there's me, I suppose I'm that sort of white middle-aged gentleman type that goes, hey, do not worry, Wendy, for I will come in and save the day. So I come riding in on my white horse to save the day. And there I am with all my arguments. So we start off discussing the British jazz scene. And I'm going, if you're going to describe, jazz as black music because you believe that black people invented it, well, the British jazz scene was created by white people. And black people didn't really appear to the mid-1950s. Now, I believe this is the case, and you need to understand that to understand the history of British jazz. But this lot just saw this as an absolute massive affront, a racist attack on their music. Now, the thing is, I've been ensconced in arguments with Truth Saviour over in the States, arguing about the fact of who owns that black American cultural legacy. Well, I would argue nobody owns it. And I even believe Truth Saviour would say nobody owns it. But it is black American culture. And his problem with me was me trying to take that away. No, that's not a thing. But it is a bloody thing. And we all know what it is. We all know what black American culture is, and it's not about techniques, approaches, it's not about those elements at all. Not at all. Right? Black American culture is something that I love. I don't know why, but I'm not a part of it, and I have no ownership of it, but I do love it. And when I'm playing my drums, if you take all the technique out of it, right, when I'm trying to lay that beat down, I'm trying to get something which is about feel. You could even describe, I want to get to the soul of the music. What black American culture is about soul, right? This is what I have learned on my journey of this channel. I think this is an interesting take. I think it's worthy of a proper discussion, but not with this bloody jazz elite. No, straight away they're calling Wendy a bigot, they're calling her a racist. I start saying my bit, I'm a bigot and I'm a racist. Now, I've had this for bloody years, right? There I am putting in the facts. What black musician was around before Papa Jack Lane? What black musician was around before the T.O. family? You tell me where the black origination comes from. Because are you saying it's absolutely unique? Yes, we're saying it's absolutely unique. Jazz was created solely by black musicians. And these are British black people arguing it from Britain and arguing about ancestry. Now, the trouble is, it's because the way they tend to argue, they go, well, your ancestors were probably beating up my ancestors. And I sit there and go, well, my mom's from India. And she had to get out of India because she was mixed race. And everybody wanted to kill her back then. British colonialism, my mom lived under it. And when she came to England in the 1940s, she had to experience racism like you don't see anymore, right? Now, I'm going to state this outright, and I do not care. Recently on a video about British jazz, I said my opinion that there was genius level jazz musicians with Courtney Pine and Julian Joseph and Django Bates, Andy Shepherd, in this jazz renaissance that emerged in my country in the 1980s, where jazz actually crossed over to the mainstream. The major labels then went and signed up everybody that happened to be on that scene, and they signed up artists that were nowhere near that level. I would describe as adequate, mediocre jazz musicians. One such musician, I believe, in my opinion, was Cleveland Watkins. Now, I'm sure he's aware that that's my opinion of him. But the interesting thing with Cleveland, he is also an associate of a guy called Steve Lawson, someone I've never mentioned on this channel before, or if I have, very fleetingly. Steve Lawson, I employed him many years ago at my college. He came in to teach on the degree level courses. And from that, we then formed bands. We made albums together, right? In amongst all this, knowing that Steve Lawson is somebody that politically aligns himself with, say, leftist ideas, identity politics ideas, a fan of Kimberly Crenshaw, intersectionality. He's that guy. Now, I have no problem with the people having a different political opinion to me, and I would support them in them having it, but I don't agree with it. And I don't agree with it with every fibre of my body. I don't want them to stop them having that an opinion, and I believe that my worldview probably does need to be tempered by their worldview. I wouldn't want to put my worldview on the whole world. I think it would be wrong. And although I believe in a sort of colourblind approach to racism, maybe in certain situations you do need someone arguing from that position to put the argument forth to rebalance things. Now, I'm being really, really fair and liberal, but my feelings, my political opinions, and my adherence to freedom of expression tends to me over to a certain side. Steve's different to me. And for every post he's ever put up that I really violently disagree with, I've never challenged him in any way, shape or form. And he has done the same, not done the same to me, because I think because of some sort of friendship perhaps that we both have for playing with each other, loving each other's playing, making albums that we love, and really doing something educationally that was unique back in the day. But Cleveland Watkins, he don't care about that. At some point, Steve, right, in a sort of two-faced, traitorous way, right, and he has a right to do it. I'm sure I've talked about people behind their back, but he messages Cleveland Watkins. I'm so sorry that you have to put up with Andy Edwards. He used to be a force of nature. But now he's a YouTuber, and I hate YouTube, and he's become all far right, and he's a racist, and he doesn't like postmodernism, and he keeps talking about cultural Marxism, and every time someone criticises him, he acts like an asshole. That's what he said. Acts like an asshole and moans about it. Yeah, I do. When someone's giving you death threats, Steve, for having an opinion, and they're saying they're going to come over to this country and find you and kill you and your family, right? I do moan a little bit, and perhaps I'm an asshole for saying that. But what I saw you messaging to Cleveland Watkins was traitorous. It was traitorous. Oh, then what Cleveland Watkins using this on a public forum because he didn't have an argument against me is scummy and low. Him putting up quotes from horrible, scummy, racist people and saying they're your friends when I don't know these people is scummy and low. And believe me, him then casting aspersions on my mother's ancestry and saying that I had faux Calcutta knowledge and thinking, what has my mom got to do with this, Mr. Watkins? I tell you what, nothing. You're scummy, low man. You are not having a generous conversation on here. We are not going to find common ground. Truth Saviour over in the States has a more extreme political opinion than you. But I will talk to him all day long because he is interested in finding common ground. You are only interested in maintaining your mediocrity by utilising the elitist power that you have, which is in the respect for yourself within this bloody brown-nosing jazz community of BBC DJs and writers that have no real understanding and knowledge of this history. Now, I'm a white bloke, I'll butt out of it if you want. If you can't take a white person telling you the history, unless it's bloody Ken Burns, right? If you can't take that and everyone's going to agree with you, fair enough. I will butt out. But on my channel here, right, I get to say whatever I want to say and do whatever I want to do. On this video, I've tried to make my point. Misogyny exists in the industry. It's out there. And sometimes identity politics and that Kimberly Crenshaw intersexual hierarchy is used to actually shut up women because they're not seen as being as low on the privilege ladder as other people. That's wrong in my opinion, right? I have also made the state that I believe that jazz is a product of black American culture. I've changed my opinion. My documentaries that I made, I've watched them again. Everything I'm saying is just purely factual. It is the case. What do I feel now in my heart? I don't really like calling music forms by a racial colour, but black American culture is a thing, and I bloody love it, and it needs some respect from me, and perhaps I didn't show it enough respect not because I'm a racist or a bigot, but just because I'm a British white middle class bloke who is probably utilising my privilege to have a view which doesn't take on the sort of racism that black people in America have, which is unique and different to black people in any other part of the world. Right? I don't think what I'm saying here is that racist. I don't think it's that contentious. What it is accurate, and it's me searching for the truth and trying to talk about this genre, which I love and I think many of you love, in a way that brings it back alive and shows that there could be something with this bloody history that is still able to comment on the political, social, cultural aspects of the world in which we live. It upsets me to get called a racist. It gets upset when someone calls me a bigot. I think every human being is bigoted and racist in a way. I think we all have our prejudices. To not have prejudices, to not to discriminate, would to not be human. I believe that, bonds of friendship are more important. I think supporting the people you love and trying to emanate love into the world is more important. I don't see YouTube as some big capitalist trap where you only have to talk about bloody clickbait stuff, which is basically stuff that people are interested in. That's what clickbait means, and you have to sell your soul to some sort of capitalist bastard that will then turn you into something where you become a shadow of what you once were. No, what I've experienced doing this YouTube, right, talking to people all over the world, of all sorts of different cultures, having arguments and, but I tell you something, if you're arguing with someone, but they don't hate you, they just hate your ideas, and they have the respect to talk to you. As truth is ever, you say to me once, I said, why are you nice to me? And he goes, because my mother brought me up right. I loved it. I like him. He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. Right? Don't agree with everything he said, but we don't have to. We don't have to. Right? And because I like him and I don't see the nastiness, scumminess that I see on the British jazz scene inherent in it, the elitism, the gut, reaction to just cancel someone, destroy them because they've said something that you can't spend the time to question yourself, because you believe absolutely that your idea of utopia usurps everybody else's idea of utopia. Right? And if you do not chant what they want, then you are part of the problem. And when somebody describes someone as part of the problem, I feel fear inside. right? Because I know where that's going. And music should not be attached to that totalitarian, genocidal thought process. It just should not. It always reaches out. This is why black American culture is so bloody brilliant, because every aspect of it is inclusive. Nobody begrudges me, except for idiots talking about cultural appropriation, if I'm trying my hardest to get the same feel as Zigaboo on the drums. Only an idiot would say that, right? Why would I want to do that? Because I love who he is, what he does. I'm not interested in the technique. I'm interested in the soul. I'm in love with Zigaboo's soul. I'm in love with Miles Davis's soul. I'm in love with John Coltrane's soul. I'm in love with the soul of black American culture. And that soul is within jazz, and it's taught other people to have a soul. And when you go and listen to, European free jazz or gypsy jazz or any of that music, which is removed from black American culture but is still jazz, right? The thing that's in it is that music has also created its own soul, because we all have a soul. And our soul is our interaction with us as an individual and the world, the universe outside, right? And art is about celebrating that outsideness. It's about celebrating and going towards the light rather than going towards the darkness. You go towards the light. All great art, you go towards the light. Even when the artist seems like they are the purveyor of darkness, they are still in the want and need to create art and to create order out of experience. And order is the light. And the universe is full of beautiful order and harmony. And all those things are love. And the universe loves you, right? It loves you and it supports you, right? And whether you believe there's a God or not, right? This is your life right now. And please don't, do not embrace the darkness which is in our future. In all of us, our future, it's a terrifying thing. Don't embrace it. And those people that peddle it, right, probably the best to not deal with them. But when you stop dealing with people, it's the same as cancelling people. This is a really difficult one. Really difficult one. Tomorrow, I will be doing a video on what makes musical greatness, really. And I'm hoping this week we will have gone, for those of you who have noticed, from the clickbait hate video right on the Monday morning through a whole realm of discussion about music, jazz, Joni Mitchell, Kate Bush, and hopefully love has reared its beautiful head in amongst all these conversations. And that's all I'm interested in. That is what I'm interested in here, right? So this video is what it is, okay? If you enjoyed this talk, stick a like on it. If you want to see some more and you're not subscribed, please go over to Patreon, where there's tons of video like this and much more deeper videos. And I've got 2 tiers. One's a political one if you do want to hear my political opinions. And if you don't, you can just join the normal tier where you'll get loads about jazz and prog and all that type of stuff. For those of you who can't tolerate anybody having a different opinion to you and have watched this video in annoyance and are about to say in the comments, you stick to music because I don't like your opinions, to you. Right? And if you didn't bother watching it to the end of the video and you put that in there, I am just going to put a comment so derogatory because, and this is what I found so funny about Steve Lawson, there he was reporting about me and what I say and what I do on this channel, whilst at the same time saying he blocked everything that I do. He blocked everything. So how the hell does he know? How does he know what I'm saying and what I'm doing on here? Right? Do I think I'm doing something positive here? Yes. I feel that my mission on this planet as a creative musician has come to fruition. Bloody hell, there's a lot of shuns in this one. Has come to fruition on this channel. And I believe there's certain things happening here which I'm not controlled of, but there's certain ideas that are interesting in what they suggest for our society going forward and how we value creativity and aesthetics or not. And I believe letting people express themselves how they want and letting them search for beauty in their own way, not in the prescribed way of a totalitarian elite. You know, the UK jazz scene at the moment is run by the priests of the Temple of the Syrinx. It really is that. So, by that notion, anybody who wants to, fix jazz needs to go searching in some bloody cave somewhere. Because I tell you, I haven't got it. I haven't got the jazz. I haven't got it. I tell you now, all these people keep saying I have it, and I haven't got it. They keep saying it's our music, but you've taken it from us. You're trying to erase them, and you're trying to have it for yourself. You're trying to stake your white claim on it. But I've looked everywhere for it. Jazzy. I have looked everywhere for it. If I've got it, I apologise. I will give it back as soon as I find it. But they keep saying to me, that I've had it. They keep saying it. I mean, where is it? Maybe it's over here. Jazz? Jazz? Are you in there, Jazz? I mean, what does Jazz actually look like? Oh, there's a box here. What's in this one? Yeah, foam. That's not Jazz, is it? What else have we got around here? Maybe this is it. Maybe, Jazz is dead. Maybe it's in this great big coffin. I think I've found Jazz's coffin, everybody. This is Jazz's coffin. I think I do have it. What have I got in here? Great big box. What have I got in here? Well, I've got a little bit of sweet paper. That's not Jazz, is it? Not Jazz. Where have I got it? It's got to be somewhere here. They keep telling me I've got it. Jazz, where are you? Jazz. Jazz. It's time to go back home. Go back to your black family. Down here, are you? Sorry to have, stolen you. I don't know where. I'm talking to nothing, really. Am I really talking to nothing? Is jazz really a thing, or is it just a sort of essentialist category that doesn't really exist? I wonder which one it is. Like race and like bloody hierarchies and privileges. Maybe they're all just essentialist categories, so they don't really exist. Bloody hell, they cause a lot of problems if they do. Jazz! Jazz, where are you, Jazz? 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 Jazz?